Hey gang, this is the outside. Welcome back to another video. We're currently on a bit of rest and relaxation that we've had planned for over 6 months at Nusa Dua in Bali. It's a beautiful place, a little bit hot for running. My hat goes off to those people who run in the tropics all the time because I am just sweating. So the main reason behind our trip was to take a much needed break. For Ali, that was after her amazing effort in the Great Ocean Road Marathon only 3 weeks ago. They were tremendously difficult conditions and she did a great job, particularly in the second half of the run. If you haven't checked out the video yet, jump on, have a look. I'll try and put a link to it in the description, otherwise you'll find it on the channel. On that one, check out the other videos. There's a couple more France videos coming soon from Chamonix in relation to UTMB. I've just got to pull my finger out and get those ones edited. But I'm sure you'll love it, and while you're there, feel free to subscribe to the channel. It helps me out, slowly growing as we post more and more content. So Ali's really enjoying giving her legs a much needed break, albeit maintaining a little bit of running and some gym work and Pilates as well. My reasoning is completely different. You may remember me in the last video saying this, and we've been working really hard to get ourselves to the point where we can run this thing. Now for me, that's not going to happen. I've got some injury problems, but well, unfortunately that little foot issue turned into something quite significant. And I guess you would describe it as what people call plantar fasciitis. So some of you are probably saying, plantar fasciitis, isn't that nasty thing that happens to footballers and ends careers? Others might be saying, yeah, I reckon I went to high school with Plantar Fasciitis. Well,
you're both right.
In a basic sense, and I'm definitely not a doctor, but I know enough to be dangerous. The plantar fascia is the tissue that makes up the sole of the foot. Connects everything. It's kind of like a matrix.
The matrix is everywhere. It is all around us.
Not that kind of matrix. But it's critically important because it enables movement and all those attachments of all those muscles via tendons, all that sort of stuff. So it's fairly important. And when it gets angry, they generally term the condition plantar fasciitis. And a lot of people don't want to hear that word if they're an athlete because it can mean a lengthy layoff. And it is largely an unknown depending on the individual. So right now I'm in that real uncertainty stage of not knowing where I'm at and not knowing how long a recovery is going to be, with what I'll call some time pressures with training for some pretty big events later in the year. But I'm realistic enough with my running and my age and my ability to know that if things have got to give, some events do have to give. So I guess the next key question is, why does it happen? Again, everyone's going to be a little bit different about why they get injured. Now the general message with plantar fasciitis, or plantar fasc as the cool kids call it, I'm learning, is that it's largely an overuse issue with the bottom of your foot. Statistically, people who run a high volume or are, I guess, high performance athletes, there's a 1 in 4 chance of developing some sort of problem with the plantar fascia. Where did I get those statistics?
I don't know.
So just running high volumes can be a trigger. It's also known that other muscle groups that directly interact with the plantar fascia can also cause this issue. Now that particularly resonates with me because my calf muscles, my soleus and my gastrocs are always kind of tight and I have to work really hard on them, particularly the soleus. I've spent a number of years getting those muscles stronger, but that comes at a price. It means I've got to work really hard to recover and make sure they stay fairly loose. Obviously, to lead to a calf tightness issue or an overuse issue with your plantar fascia, there can be other imbalances in your form and things like that. So when you're operating at a higher level or running at a higher volume, I guess these things are more likely to present than if you were to run much less or cross-train more or things like that. So I'm very fortunate in the management of this thing, and I'm trying to remain really positive about it because I've got a really good physiotherapist, podiatrist and strength coach who are all working together to try and get the best outcome for me. The immediate therapy involved has been dry needling, some pretty intensive massage and foot manipulation by my physiotherapist and my podiatrist. I found that to be a really effective release. We've also toyed with a generic orthotic in my shoes for getting around. Running's not a thing with it, but generally walking and being on my feet, it's helping greatly to try and get me using my feet properly again and get that tightness out of my soleus. So whilst having a great team put together is an awesome start, they are not miracle workers and they're not going to fix everything for me. I've got to do it myself. And that's a good thing about having really good therapists, is that they'll explain everything they're doing, explain how my body is interacting, I guess, within itself, and then detail ways forward for me to go away and then do the homework or the hard work myself. So my podiatrist, physiotherapist and strength coach provide me with ways forward to get myself through this situation. So the hard work and recovery techniques all occur at home, which includes this little guy. This ball really is a demon. It is one of the best things I've ever invested in. The outside is a sort of a fine rubber, I guess you'd call it, dimpled surface, and what that does is stimulate the bottom of the foot. You can put that in various places and it really feels better almost immediately if you've got a plantar fasciitis sort of a problem. My podiatrist put me onto this thing and it is absolutely worth every cent. The ball itself actually breaks in half, and it's that half that you stand on to stimulate that response on the bottom of your foot. You wouldn't want to stand on the ball in its entirety, I wouldn't have thought, but you can use that for other applications. On the inside is a small black rubber ball. Now, it's got a different purpose and it is dead set evil. Basically use that for a trigger point sort of response at various points underneath the foot, and it is excruciating. Holding that for 30 seconds, 45 seconds, or even a minute in key areas has been absolutely critical to what I believe is part of my recovery from this problem. The ball in its complete form can be used just like any other spiky ball, and I've been using that underneath my calves as well to stimulate that soleus and even my gastrocs, because that's where I hold a lot of tension, as I may have mentioned earlier. Again, this is an absolute demon and I love it. If you've got any foot problems at all and you want to get hold of some sort of device that's going to stimulate some sort of recovery response, I suggest you get hold of one of these. I'm thinking back through my training between January and May. It was a pretty significant block, and some other factors probably contributed to some other minor injuries I had and potentially this injury as well. As I was training for the Great Ocean Road Marathon, my training was very consistent, but some of the weeks did peak quite significantly, potentially spiking my load. Now, I've talked about spiking the load before. That's getting outside a sort of acceptable ratio where you do increase the risk of injury. Some minor injuries did present during that time and it did slow me up. Another key factor, I believe, was an 11th hour decision to enter the Geelong half marathon with, I guess, the motivation to try and hit a PB in the half marathon distance. Now, I hit my PB very well, but it was a pretty big effort and it was something I threw into my training block that I hadn't previously planned for. So while I'm super happy with the outcome, I believe it probably did spike my load and just increase that risk once again of sustaining a slightly more serious injury. The key learning there is maybe stick to the plan and maybe don't load in too many events. Between January and May, I also threw in another variable, and that was this daily trainer. Now, it's a great shoe. This is the Brooks Glycerin 21, but it is a 10mm heel drop. Now, this is something very, very different to many of the daily trainers, races and trail shoes that I've been using for the preceding 18 months to 2 years. Most of my shoes have generally been around a 5 to 6mm drop, including my racing shoe currently and my trail shoes. So running in this for most of my daily training miles and then jumping to some other types of shoes that are a different drop may have contributed to the issue. Should it make a massive difference? I don't know, but it is definitely a variable that I did change. So it may be a factor. So I managed to get back to running quite quickly, albeit my physio was taping up my foot. And that went really well for a couple of weeks. Managed to get sort of 30, 40 and 1 hour runs out without inflaming the issue at all. Now, the problem was when we decided it was time to run without any support by way of taping. I did get through about 40 minutes, but then inflamed it significantly and set me back a number of weeks. As part of the ongoing treatment, I do have a generic orthotic, which I have tried to run in, but I am generally just walking around in, and I find I just can't run in it. So that's something I've discovered recently, and I need to raise with my physio and podiatrist to figure out what the best way forward might be. But obviously I'm running right now. So where I'm at, after a few weeks break, to let this thing calm down and do a hell of a lot of bike work, I'm at the point where I can tape it myself and run quite easily. So it's recovered pretty well since I've been in Bali. Now I'm taping my foot myself with rock tape, and I will say, my disclaimer is I am no expert, but I feel like I'm getting better at it, and it allows me to do this. So fingers crossed, I'll discuss what I'm doing with it with my physio and podiatrist when I get back to Oz, and we'll have a bit of a game plan from there. But things are going okay. On the strength side, a modified plan reducing plyometric exercises reduces my risk of inflaming the plantar fascia any further. So basically it's the same plan, it's just modified to get me through this tough period. So from here on in, it will be maintaining plenty of bike, also maintaining that strength program that we've developed, and also engaging in all those recovery and remedy activities that I've detailed. Most of the things I've discussed are the remedies we're putting in place now. So we still need to get to the why this actually happened in the first place and what I can do to prevent it from happening again. And that's why I've got such good professionals all around me to help me figure that out. So hopefully over this next month, I can build back to some good running, albeit probably assisted by taping or some sort of support. But if I can push that time frame out to 30, 40 minutes, and maybe within the next month in excess of an hour without any inflammation or recurrence of the plantar fascia issue, then I think I'm going to be in really, really good shape. So I hope you've enjoyed this brief snapshot. Like I said, I'm right in the middle of it at the moment and I'm learning so much about it. And the purpose of this is maybe someone else out there is having a like issue. And sometimes it's just comforting to know someone else is going through the same things. Am I going to get it right first time? Probably not. But I'm going to try as much as I can to get this thing right as quickly as I can and get me back on my feet. So as always, thanks for all the support out there. Hope you've enjoyed what you're watching. If you have enjoyed it, hit that like button. Also feel free to hit the subscribe button if you like. Check out a few of the other videos and hopefully we can keep building this channel into something really cool. But right now I'm getting absolutely annihilated by mozzies. So as always, keep running, stay happy, and I'll see you on the outside.